Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the brand new Ticonic Knives Ticon 1. And if you don't know who Ticonic Knives is, it's made up of Rob from RS Knifeworks. You may have seen his work from Vosteed, one of his designs, the Vosteed RS Chaos, and then Geoff over at Tuff Knives, somebody I've been following before he even became a knife maker, back on YouTube whenever he was doing mods out of his garage. And it's so cool to see how far he's gotten in his journey of making knives. So you've probably seen his stuff too from Vosteed with the Vosteed PSYOP. So in my opinion, it's a legendary combo here, and I cannot wait to see what they do in the future. So like I said, this is the first model out of their shop, and Vosteed is helping them with the OEM work here. So if you're wondering, or if you're thinking it looks similar to their work, that's why. This knife comes in 4 different variations. You can get it with the blasted stone wash and it looks like a bead blasted titanium frame with this beautiful micro milling pattern. Also comes with a smooth tie, and then you can get the same 2 different variations with a black wash. So you can get black wash blade, black wash tie, smooth, or with the micro milling on it. This is a fairly compact knife. I call it a medium sized knife, coming in at 6.75 inches long. It has a 2.9 inch drop point blade, a Bowler M390 stainless steel. Like I said earlier, it has somewhat of like a blasted stone wash finish, which is usually not my favorite blade finish because it opens the blade up for corrosion. However, so far I've carried this a good bit and I have not had any issues yet, and we still have some pretty hot days here in Louisiana, so I'm hoping for the best. You got a nice top swedge up here that thins out that tip, giving you a very needle-like tip there. Great for piercing. And you can use it to do drag cuts, but you're going to have to come up pretty high to do so. I typically just use that belly if I'm going to pull through something. You have Rob's signature compound grind there. Hopefully you can see the line right there. You have a thicker portion in the back. And then you have your thinner grind up here in the front, which I think we've seen on all of Rob's designs with Vosteed. You do have some jimping up top, but as you can see, it's kind of rounded over. I call it very moderate traction jimping. If you're a jimping person, I would doubt this is going to be enough for you. It doesn't bother me either way, especially on my folders. I'm okay with it the way it sits. It's a good indexing point. They got a nice flat spot for me to rest my thumb, so it doesn't bother me in the least. Got a blade out for deployment. We'll talk about that in the deployment section. You do have this, I'm going to call this a large sharpening choil because I can kind of place the tip of my index finger there if I want to do like a trigger finger grip, but I think I would more likely just stay right here in front. But you're definitely going to have tons of sharpening light before it'll think about widening at the heel. You got pretty stout blade stock thickness coming in at 0.157 or 4 millimeters thick, but they still managed to grind this knife nice and thin. So in the thicker portion back here on the compound grind, it's coming in at around 17 thousandths behind the edge. That's still thinner than most production knives. And then up here in the front, it gets nice and thin to around 13 thousandths behind the edge. So this thing should slice very, very well, and we're going to find out. The knife came out of box extremely sharp. I kind of figured it would because same OEM that Vosteed is using is doing these as well. So definitely slicing very well. It's got really good edge geometry in front of that compound ground portion. You know, the back is by the heels a little thicker, but I might be starting to cut there, but it's not finishing in that spot. Even that spot's really, really sharp as well, so no problem whatsoever. Now, in the cardboard and in this, I am choked up. I'm kind of sitting on the flat spot on the scales, maybe a little bit in front of that, because I don't want to get hung up in that choil area in front of the scales, and I'm trying to get a little bit more control, and it was comfortable. You know, I was kind of worried it might be a little uncomfortable, but no, I'm able to get a lot of force into this wood. I'm really bearing down, and it was nice. This is where I can feel that edge has a good bit of aggression to it. It's got nice toothiness to it, so it's not just a sharp edge or an over polished edge, should I say. And it is slicing the 1/2-inch sisal rope effortless. I mean, no problem whatsoever. Got enough blade to do it easily. The pinch grip's comfortable. My fingers stayed away from that lock button. And, you know, I tried different types of grips. The pointer finger grip's comfortable, as you can see there. And whenever I go back, it's comfortable. Both of them nice. It's sharp enough to where I can do both of those grips very easily and comfortably. You definitely have enough belly to make these cuts very easily as well. And so far, it's been a complete pleasure to test this one. It's always nice, you know, when you got a new brand, you want to see how their stuff's going to perform. But like I said, I already had an idea, being that Fosteed's behind it. And I thought it did fantastic. I even grabbed, as you can see there, I grabbed a second piece of rope because it was cutting that well. I think I cut somewhere in the ballpark of 200 pieces before I ran out of the second piece. And couldn't go any further than that. I don't have a whole lot of sisal rope left. Got to do some more ordering. So, but yeah, definitely excellent so far. We'll see how it finishes off. But I have a feeling it's going to do pretty darn well because when I finished this last piece of sisal rope, it still felt real crisp, and it was cutting nice and cleanly, as you can see there. So, fantastic job so far. Now, look, if you want to use that tip, you're going to have to go up a lot higher because the tip is above the center line of that pivot, but that's okay. It's performing that well. That doesn't bother me in the least, and it's not hurting the functionality of the knife whatsoever. As you can see, nothing really gave it any troubles. 10-ounce denim, when I got to that, it still was slicing very, very well. So yeah, this one gets an A++ from me. And I look forward to see what they do next. Well, it performed outstanding in my opinion. Now let's take a look at the deployment and action of this knife. So you have a thumb hold for deployment. This thing is an excellent reverse flicker. And then thumb flick, great. It's got a very well-tuned detent. Nice and snappy, nice and smooth, riding on ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. You can also do a spotty drop on it if you'd like, or you can use that button to deploy it if you'd like. As soon as you release that lock, it's a complete free dropper. And now let's look at this handle area. Like I said, I have the one with the micro milling. I like it. I think it's a nice added touch there. It offers extra grip. And you also have a blue anodized pivot collar. Torx T8 throughout. Look at those fasteners. Nice crisp fasteners there. Even your pocket clip is a Torx T8. Love seeing that. You also have these nice large chamfers going all the way around. And they did a good job of knocking this edge off right here. You know, as far as the ergos go, I thought it was a lot more comfortable than I expected. So if I'm choked back in this little area, I can still kind of manage to get a 4-finger grip with my medium-sized hands, but just barely. I noticed a lot of the cutting, without even thinking about it, I kind of got right here. Because this area, you know, you're too close to that edge. You could do like the trigger finger grip right here if you wanted to, just to pull yourself away from it. But I just noticed that the initial reaction was just to come right here, and it was comfortable. I had no issues. I kind of thought it wouldn't be because you don't have a big ledge there, but I'm kind of cheated up a little bit, and for me it was nice and comfortable. Now if you have large, extra large hands, this one might be a little small for you. You do have a lanyard hole if you needed to grab a hold to something. You know, you could tie a thick lanyard back here. Your handle scales are coming in at 3.85 inches long, and the thickness is 0.492, so right about average. And there was no sharp spots. The pocket clip stayed out of the way of my palm, and everything was a lot better than expected, being that, you know, to me, this grip right here, you're way too far away from that edge. You end up getting hung up in this spot. So creeping up like this, I'm kind of blocking the material, and I can get right up to that edge to get a nice controlled cut with it. When I did the wood carving, I was able to get a lot of force into the wood comfortably. And if I'm saying that, you know, my hands are very beat up, so any little thing really bothers me. And luckily, this one did not bother me at all. We have a partial titanium backspacer with a gear pattern right there. It's anodized blue, just like the pivot collar. Then the rest is all open. So if you need to blow that out with some compressed air, get a Q-tip in there, you could easily get it in there. You have all the milling on the outside, and you have milling on the inside because you do have stainless steel liners that are nested. They're heavily skeletonized. But the reason they had to do that is because this is a top liner lock. I think that's what Volsteed calls it. It's basically a button compression lock, kind of like on the Spyderco Smock. You can see this little tab right here. It's hooked to the liner, right, the top liner lock right there. You push it over and it moves out of the way of that portion of the blade. One thing that I did notice, you know, after did all the testing and stuff, I did manage to loosen the pivot a little bit, which is not uncommon. You know, that happens a good bit of the time whenever I'm exerting a lot of force into, say, the wood and, you know, different movements. That blade is kind of, you know, getting pressure in every which way. So sometimes the pivot will loosen up on me a little bit. Well, I've noticed with the top liner locks, if that pivot gets loose, you may develop some blade play. I mean, that I'm guessing just the way it's sitting on top of that tang right there. So if you ever notice something like that, make sure your blade's not loose at all. You know, that can happen with liner locks as well. It's not an uncommon thing. As soon as I tighten it back up, rock solid. With those lightning pockets in there, it brings your weight to 100.9 grams or 3.559 ounces. Totally acceptable for me. Now, when it comes to carry, it is tip up right hand carry only, unfortunately. Sorry, lefties. You do get a milled titanium pocket clip that has been skeletonized in the middle. One thing I would have loved to see on the textured ones like this is a flat spot underneath that pocket clip. Now, it's not extremely aggressive or anything, and I don't know what happened. I could have sworn my clip was a little bit off the frame, and I thought it was because of this, but you know, unless it settled back down or something, or just in and out of the pocket, it's back touching the scales, and I did not mess with it at all. You do have enough ramp to get it in and out of the pocket, but you do hear that going in and out of the pocket. So it's probably going to become a pocket destroyer after a while. It's not a deep carry. That's where it sits. I'm perfectly fine with that. You do have something to grab a hold to when pulling it out of the pocket, and I found it, held it in my pocket nice and securely. Being that the lockup is actually behind that stop pin right there, you really can't see it, but I have checked it out myself underneath it, and it's sitting at around 30 or 40%. The lockup on mine, you know, nice and tight because my pivot's nice and tight, so I have no movement up or down, left or right. Nice and tight lockup. Now for some quick size comparisons, it's smaller than both the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Next up, it's a hair shorter than the Kaiser Original, and it's a little longer than the Volsteed Mini Psyop. And last, it's a little smaller than the Spyderco Para 3, and it's almost identical to the Benchmade Mini Grip. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints, I would have loved to see just a raw stone wash finish just because of the corrosion aspect. There's no lefty love, and I would have loved to see a flat spot underneath this pocket clip, and maybe even have this forward choil go into the scale a little bit more so you can make it a full forward finger choil so it would fit large hands easily as well. And one more last thing would be the price. It's coming in at $249. I know that is pretty steep, but you have two guys behind Ticonic, and I'm sure they'd make a huge run, so that also makes the price go up. I don't think it's super out of line for being a top liner lock, M390 steel, milled tie. You know, there's a lot going on here. It's definitely a well-made knife, so you're going to have to make that decision if it's worth it to you. So who do I think this knife is for? If you're looking for a high-quality knife that performs well in everyday situations, the Ticonic Ticon 1 is a fantastic option. The combination of its materials, fun and secure lock, not to mention its smooth and fidgety action, makes it a standout piece for anybody's collection. This one was purchased by me, so they didn't send me this. Not that that would have changed anything, just because some people don't understand that. I definitely can't wait to see where Ticonic takes this. I'm sure they have some really cool designs in the pipeline. They started out very strong in my opinion. So y'all let me know down in the comments, what do you think about the Ticonic Ticon 1? Do you like the design? Do you like the size? Do you like the knife makers behind Ticonic Knives? Let me know that down in the comments. That's going to be all for today's review. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button so I know you're enjoying the content. And if you like knife and gear content and you're not already, think about hitting that subscribe button. We'd love to have you. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. I hope every one of y'all is having a fantastic day today. And until next time, remember, keep the blade sharp, smile more. Peace.